everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to start a horror vlog. I am so excited. Horror is fun and I'm just in like the mood for horror. I've been watching a lot of horror movies. I've been watching like horror TV shows. I've been rewatching Scream Queens, which is so much fun. I love that series. It's very camp. And I just really want to read some horror books. So I have picked out Success. Like, this will be successful. So definitely this has been on my list for quite a while, and this is actually going to work for one of my TBR prompts. Sequel, or what was it? I needed to read a sequel for horror. And so What Feasts at Night, this is the sequel to What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. So we're definitely going to be reading this one, which is a very short novella. And then we're definitely going to be reading The Invocations. This is one that has been on my shelf for a really long time that I've been dying to read, and I'm just scared to read it because my expectations are incredibly high for this book. It is everything I want in it, where we have three main characters. This is the Evernight copy of it. Yes, very exciting. This is the same author as my Darkest Dearest, which I really liked. I think I gave that a 4.5. I really enjoyed that one. So I have high expectations for this one, hence why I have not read it yet. And this is more your young adult horror kind of thing going on with witches. Next we have one that I am so excited about. This is one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and it is Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. Everyone is excited. Everyone is reading this one. This is just everything that I want in a book, at least from the synopsis, because we are following a cursed film that has only like had three scenes released to the public, and now there is a group of people who want to remake it, and it is the story of the original film and the current day remake of the film. So that's literally right up my alley for things that I love. And the next we have a surprise one. This I actually saw Olivia Reads a Latte reading, and she ended up liking it, and she said like very True Blood and very like campy southern kind of thing. It happens in the 90s, and it is Bless Your Heart. I love this cover, and it seems like it's going to be like, I feel like this is gonna be like a cozy horror series kind of thing, like kind of like True Blood, but it seems like it should be funnier. Like, a lot of people said it's witty and funny, and it's blurred by like everybody: Rachel Harrison, Darcy Coates, Nat Cassidy. So that seems like really good. And again, this is following a group of women who are they run a funeral parlor, and it's all in the same family. It follows like a whole line of women. They run a funeral parlor, and then the undead begin to rise, and they have to put them down. So sounds funny. Sounds like it could be a really good time with some interesting southern funny things. So I'm quite excited about this one. So this is, pretty much everything is very different. This is like your cozy kind of horror. We have horror, young adult horror, and like, I forget, this is horror as well, but in a novella format. So we have a lot of different things. I think my order, I don't know, all of these I think could be 5 stars. Like, I feel like most of these could be 5 stars. I think I'm gonna put Horror Movie last, just because it is the most risky, because I feel like I tend not to like horror the best out of all the different types of horrors. Young adult horror should definitely be up there. I'm putting, I really like cozy horror a lot, but I don't know that much about this author or the writing style or anything about them. So I think, oh, puppy, there's the puppy. There he is. Oh, he's gonna start barking in a second. I'll let him out in a minute. So anyway, I think this will be my order. I think I'm gonna love the follow-up, because I've been dying for a follow-up to What Moves the Dead, and I'm really excited about this. I really like novellas, so I think that's a really good odds of me liking that one. And then I'm putting Invocations next, because I like young adult horror a lot. And then we're putting Bless Your Heart, and then Horror Movie. But I feel like they're all gonna be about, I'm gonna like all of them. Like, this is a winner of a TBR. So anyway, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future content, and we're gonna get right into the reading. I think we're starting with What Feasts at Night. Like I said, this is the follow-up to What Moves the Dead. If you haven't read it yet, I would definitely go check it out. It's a really good, different type of T. Kingfisher. The writing is definitely like an older style. It's supposed to be a take on the House of Usher. Is it the House of the Fall of Usher? Something like that. And it's really good, and it's really creepy, and it's just very atmospheric. So that's what I'm hoping this is going to be like. It's following the same character from the first book. I almost said movie. I would love for the first one to be a movie. And this is basically just following another adventure of the character in the first movie. And I'm so excited to be back in this world because I really liked the first one. So I have very high hopes for this, and we're gonna read this one first. So let's get into the reading. I read What Feast at Night. This is a super short novella. It's about 140 pages, and a lot of the issues revolve around it being 140 pages. So right off the bat, I gave this a 3. It was fine. It was fun. I loved some parts of it. I absolutely loved some parts of it, but I feel like a lot of it meandered, and I did not love the meandering. So if you don't know anything about the series, definitely go check out What Moves the Dead. It's a very fast, interesting, very different type of T. Kingfisher novel. If you read other T. Kingfisher novels, it definitely follows in the vein of the horror side. It is a horror series, but it's got like more of an old style of writing because it takes place, I think the first book, I looked it up, it takes place in like 1890, something like that, and it's following Easton, our main character, who goes by they them, and they were a soldier in the war, and there's a lot of PTSD that is talked about in that. And Easton ends up going to this like manor house. This is the first book. And things happen from there. It's very creepy. I think it's a retelling of like the House of Usher. It's got stuff relating to the House of Usher. This one kind of uses a folk story of like the Morai, which I always thought were like these vampire things, but apparently in other cultures it's like this moth/woman who like sits on your chest while you're sleeping and steals your breath. So this story kind of revolves around old folk stories and if they're real, kind of that kind of, it takes place in a very old-timey town. So I love that kind of backbone of the story. I love that we're following Easton and our characters. Again, I love Angus, I love Miss Potter. These are all people he met in the first book, which is really cool. And then we introduced 2 new characters in this book, or actually really 3. 2 were the more important ones, and one of them I absolutely loved. Like, one of them I had such a fun time with, and I love how the book ended with that character. It was just a fine follow-up. That's kind of the problem with this. It had a really good setting, but there just wasn't enough build-up. This really needed 50 to 100 more pages to really build up that backstory that I loved in the first book. It kind of relied on the first book a little bit too heavily, and I do think this would work better as like you read the first book and then you immediately read this one. But again, still, there needed to be more story with this town. Like, we needed to see Easton go into town more, interact with more civilians of this little village. We just needed generally more interaction with the characters because it was just so short. So by the time we actually got to what was going on, it wrapped up so fast that you kind of sat there and were like, did something actually happen? Like, did it actually happen? And it gets a 3 because it has such a good backbone. It has such a good backbone of a story, but it is by far too fast. And again, I really wanted another 100 pages. Oh, if this was explored for just a little longer and it drew it out a little bit longer, it would have been so good. Because I feel like half of the story really was focused on Easton's PTSD, which is fine if you have like a longer story and a build-up with the horror part of it. This is definitely significantly less horror than the first one. The first book definitely focused on the horror significantly more and the creeping sense of dread. This one kind of just like was trying to do that, but instead it was just so short, it just threw it at you. So I liked this. I'm disappointed, but I liked it, and I do hope we continue with the series. I just hope they're longer or maybe executed a bit differently. We needed to introduce the horror aspect of this and more creeping dread a little bit earlier and make sense of it a little bit earlier. There just wasn't enough of that in this book. I liked it, but it was definitely not the best thing. It was definitely not the best T. Kingfisher, and it was a bit of a disappointment as a continuation of the series, sadly.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out The ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. Sometimes I can't tell if
I'm outside. Following my dog around. He likes to run around our yard and it is very hard to keep up with him for a 14-year-old dog. Yeah, he is all the way down there. Oh, I love it. We have 2 acres of property on our at our new house, and he uses much of it, which is good. I'm glad he has like a lot of space to run around. It's just fun to try and figure out where he's gone. And our driveway is mostly gravel. So, finally, found the dog. So I have finally read The Invocations. I have finally read it. It didn't take me that long. It was very addictive of a read. I thought this was going to be 5 stars for like most of the read, and then the end was just kind of weird, so I ended up giving it a 4-star. Okay, I was trying to film that update outside. But some days the bugs be eaten. And this morning they be eaten. I got 2 bug bites already just from being outside for like 3 seconds, and it's in the morning. I love that. I love that. And I like filming outside because the lighting is so much better. So now it's like grainy and it makes me sad. So anyway, like I was saying, 4-star to The Invocations. This does have one of my new favorite characters. I loved every character in this. I loved following the trio of, well, I can't say all of them are witches because they're not all witches, but the trio of women, they're awesome. They come from all walks of life. It is so much fun. And it's basically just like women power, fight the patriarchy. Loved it. Again, like I said, the ending was just absolutely bizarre, but we are following our 3 main characters. So the book kind of seems like Zara is going to be your main character, but in my opinion, Jude was the real main character. I feel like I learned the most about Jude. Jude had the biggest like character arc. The most happened with Jude, and that's kind of who I felt the most connected to throughout the book. But Zara is like coded as the main character with Jude as like the funny side character, but Zara's storyline just didn't work as well for me as Jude's, and Zara could get really annoying. So Jude was like a balance to Zara's annoyingness, and then Emmer also seemed like she was going to be one of the main characters, and she is, but her story just is kind of a background, like underlaying the other character stories, and she's like really, really important. But to me, definitely Jude and Zara are a bigger main character than her, and then for me, Jude is like the main character. But yeah, we were following these 3 women. This is the Evernight copy. Stunning. I love this edition of the book. And all 3 women have something different that they are trying to accomplish, and they're all brought together by these murders that are occurring. So this is like a horror murder mystery, and it really doesn't have a ton of horror in it. There is like some body horror a little bit. Yeah, no, there's definitely body horror. There's body horror in it, and then there is some like monster type horror towards the end of the book, but it generally is a mystery. Like you're trying to figure out what's happening, and I was it was pretty easy to figure out, but there was one big twist that I was like, I was hoping this wasn't gonna happen, but it also made a lot of sense. Yeah, so there's these women who come to Emmer, who is a curse writer, and they get curses written for them, and those women are dying. And the other two, Jude and Zara, they have kind of their own things. Jude needs to find a curse writer to heal herself, and Zara needs to raise the dead, so she also needs a curse writer. So they kind of all fall in together, and they're gonna help protect these women and find out who is murdering who, so that Emmer can help them with what they're trying to do. And it's just fun. It's so much fun. Jude is definitely a new favorite character. I'm obsessed with her. She is so much fun. This is definitely a book where the women are the really sole focus of the book. If there's any men in here, they're mid. They're mid or just evil. So I loved that. It's just fun sometimes to read a book that is coded for women, and this is definitely coded for women. I loved this. Really, really like this. This is a 4-star. This should have been 5. This should have been 5. The ending was so weird. Like there's a big fight scene, I feel like, as in most books that are thrillers of chase scenes, etc. The big scene at the end is just, it got too chaotic and too weird for me. And when people start floating, that's when I start losing interest. Like, I just don't, it just got weird. It got weird. I feel like maybe this is more like a 4.25 because of how much I really, like, the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, I loved this. I really loved this. So let's say 4.25, actually, now that we're kind of more that I've talked about it. So anyway, next we're going to be reading my most anticipated, but also my most nervous for the year. We're going to be reading Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. I'm so excited about this book. I'm so excited. But I'm also nervous. I read or listened to A Head Full of Ghosts, and I really, really liked it, but I could tell the writing style was a bit funky for me. So that's why I'm really nervous, and I have not read or listened to anything else Paul Tremblay has done. I do want to read or listen to the Pallbearers Club, because I think that one's weird and I think I might like the weirdness of that one. But this seems classic, something I would like. This is classic horror movie cursed kind of set thing, and there's like some mixed media in this, which I wasn't expecting until I bought it. I didn't know I had mixed media, but I do tend to like mixed media sometimes. It has to be done right. It takes place in the 90s, and I love that. But it says, a group of young guerrilla filmmakers spent 4 weeks making Horror Movie, a notorious, disturbing art house horror flick. But only like 3 scenes were actually released, and now one of the guys who was part of the movie, they're trying to get him to be in like a remake. And so it's told in both storylines, and so I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. So anyway, let me go read this, and I will come back and update you about how I felt about it. So this is one of my spare rooms. This is one of my spare rooms, but I kind of just like hanging out in my spare rooms. My geckos are also in the spare room, so I like to come hang out with them for a little bit. It's about 2 hours later. 2 hours later, I think. I DNF'd it. I don't know what to say other than that it was awful. It was so bad. I am confused. My brain hurts. This was nothing like what I was expecting, and I hated it. I really hated it, and I put it down like 1,000 times. I only read about 50 pages, probably less than that, and I could not. And then I ended up flipping to the end, and I hated the ending too, so I'm really glad I DNF'd it. But dang, this was like one of my most anticipated books of the year, especially in horror. Like, I'm very careful about my horror, especially with anticipating horror. And I feel like this just ripped my heart out, because now it's like one of those things, like I'm so picky about horror that when I'm like, okay, I'm really gonna like this. And then when I don't like it, I'm just like, do I even like horror? Do I even like horror? Which makes me want to cry. Not really, but it makes me want to very awkwardly laugh is what I normally do. I don't, like, The scripts were awful. So the mixed media was terrible. Like that's it. It felt, but I feel like it was on purpose. So you have these characters, and in the past, it's these people who I think they like all went to high school together, and they are coming up with this script, and they need to cast someone called the Thin Guy or Thin Man, Thin Kid, Thin Kid, Thin Kid. And so our main character is the one who played Thin Kid in the movie and in the current day, who the studios are trying to get to do the movie and reprise a role kind of thing. And so in the past, it's these two girls, Cleo and Valentina, and they're talking about the script, and it's super secretive. They're not gonna give anyone the script except for the day of, and he's not gonna have any lines, and he's just gonna wear this creepy mask, and it feels very bad Goosebumps. Like that's what it feels like the mask from Goosebumps, that's what it feels like. But I would rather read Goosebumps than this, like any day. So the mixed media is like a shitty script. Like it's giving you the script the same time you're getting it, apparently, like as how you're supposed to. You're getting fed small pieces of it, and it just sucks. It's so dry and boring, and it's supposed to be eerie, but I'm getting nothing of that. I'm not getting any eeriness. It's just annoying to read. Like I wish it didn't exist. Like I don't even want the script pieces in here. And then the current day stuff is just our main character. He just sucks. He sucks. I'm sure he's supposed to, but it's unbearable suckage. Like it's not fun to hate him. It's just, I don't want to read in your perspective. You suck. So he's just annoying. He's just constantly so annoying. And then the flashbacks are these slow, it's the same 50 pages in, it's the same slow conversation. They're trying to convince him to be this person and giving him small details about what's going on. But the conversation is lasting hours, like hours. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this could have been a phone call probably. But it's just that's all it is. That's all the book is so far. And I kept reading through, and that's all it is. Like you finally get on set and start going through things that are happening, but it's so horrifically boring. Like I skimmed through it and I'm just like, same stuff that was happening in the first 50 pages. So this is going to be a very polarizing book, because I read this because so many people were like, this is so good, this is so amazing. We did not read the same book. We did not read the same book. So if you like Paul Tremblay, you will probably like this. If you don't like Paul Tremblay, you probably won't like this. I'm so sad. This is such a pretty book, and it's everything I thought I wanted. And the synopsis is better than the book is. That's just what it comes down to. So I am horribly disappointed, but this is a DNF. This is a DNF, and we're gonna move on to the next book, the last book, Bless Your Heart. I'll show you in the next clip when I talk about it, because I don't know where I put it. I'm currently reading it, but I don't know where I put it, because I kind of started it right away, and I wanted to give myself time to think about this. So I'm about 30-40 pages into that one, and I'm liking that one so much better. I can see why people don't like it, because it's already gotten pretty low ratings. It's got like a 3.6 or something, and somehow this has a 3.8. I will say it's very small. It's I know why it has a low rating. I love cozy mysteries. It is a cozy horror, much creepier. Like it kind of creeps me out. Like there's some things in it that really creep me out. But it is following small town southern kind of thing. It's following a group of women who are all in the Ellen's family. Is that what it is? And they are they work at a funeral. They own a funeral parlor, and they are the only thing stopping the town basically from being eaten by the risen dead. And it's fun. It's fun and creepy and very gory. It is very gory. I was not expecting to be that gory, but it still has the cozy horror vibe that not a lot of people like or seek out. But it's like even looking at like the cover, and if you read the first page and the synopsis, it is very obviously not trying to take itself too seriously. So, and it's going to be a series, so I'm hoping I really continue liking it. It is giving me a little bit of the ick with the amount of gore that's in it, because there's a lot of gore in it, but I am overall very much enjoying it so far. So I'm hoping I have a good review for you to finish the video with. Because I mean, it's been hit or miss. What Feasts at Night, when I think about it more, I feel like it's going to be more of like a 3.5, like about the same as What Moves the Dead. What Moves the Dead I think was a 3.75, and I think that works with What Feasts at Night being a 3.5. I like it the more I think about it. I just, again, still needed more from that. The invocations was really, really good, 4.25. And then DNF. I feel like the most exciting one in this book, in this video too, is this one. This is the one people want to hear about, and it was the DNF. We have finished the vlog. We have finished. It was a struggle. It was a struggle because this book was awful. This was a 1 star. This was a 1 star. Oh man, you can really see the pimple from this morning. This was a 1 star. I don't even know, like, where to start with this one. Oh man, this was supposed to be fun. This was supposed to be so much fun. And that's what all the reviews are like. It's like True Blood mixed with like Magnolia something, but Steel Magnolias meets Buffy, and some ghost story, and it's just a creepy romp that begs for sequels. Gory, spine-chilling, and deeply southern, an absolute must-read. Sparkling with magic and southern charm, a witty and compulsively readable story. None of that is true. None of that is true. So yeah, this book is following the Evans family. We are following the grandmother, great-grandmother, the grandmother, the mom, and the daughter in this story. And every single one of them has a point of view. That's really, I think, what comes down to why this book doesn't work. It doesn't work because there are 7,000 points of view, and when you move to a different point of view, they just repeat something the other point of view has already gone over. It was an absolute slog to get through. And on top of each Evans sister having a point of view, the sheriff also has a point of view. They randomly, all the victims have points of view, and other people have points of view. It's just so many different points of view. It's so many that it's hard to keep like a straight narrative in the story. I love the idea behind the story, but because of the different points of view and the writing was really bad, I just could not get behind this. And I actually DNF'd it like 3 times, and I was like, I'm not having another DNF in here. I am not doing another DNF. And this one was easier to get through than horror stories. So I was like, I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna read this. This is barely 300 pages. It's not even 300 pages. And so I finished it, and it was not worth the payoff. It was not worth the payoff. There was some very disappointing things that happened at the end of it that I was really pissed off actually that happened. So I'm kind of really mad that I even finished this. And this is a series. I was so looking forward to having like a generational family vampire hunting cozy horror series that I was going to keep track of as the years go on. This is not it. The sad part is I might pick up the second one just to see, because I feel like some of the stuff that happened at the end of this book could be redeemed in another book because it kind of hints at something. So I feel like this is the first time besides My Heart is a Chainsaw that I'm thinking about reading a sequel to a 1-star book. Normally if I give a 1-star or a 2-star, I'm done. I'm done with the series. Unless it's like a second book. Second book, I'll probably read the third one if I liked the first book. But if I give a first book in a series a 1 or a 2, that tends to be it. So this is, I don't know. I don't know if I would continue with this. I think it really depends on how I'm feeling when the second one comes out, and if the synopsis like grips me. And I think also if I do pick it up, I'm not buying it, and it will be like I'm gonna try the first couple chapters to see if the writing is better, because I found some mistakes in here. That's what I was surprised about. I was like, is this a debut indie author? No, this author has written plenty of things, but I feel like I found mistakes in the writing in this that I was not expecting. And then the writing was just so clunky, and seemed like it had there was just no flow. There was just no flow. So I will probably check out the second book when it comes out, whenever it comes out, because it doesn't have a release date or anything. This literally just came out like a couple months ago, April, I think, or earlier this month. I don't know. It came out this year, so no date on a second one, but there is going to be a second one. It even says Bless Your Heart #1. So, and it reads like there's going to be multiple in the series. So if there ends up being a second one, I will try it out. I just don't have very high hopes, and I definitely won't read anything else by this author just because this was not it. This was not it. Not what I wanted, not what I was expecting. I feel like I was a little bit misled by the praise on the back and by the synopsis. I was expecting more witty, funny, humorous things going on, and there was none of that. Like, this wasn't funny at all. So this is a 1-star. Really, really hated the ending. Pretty much everything about it. So that is really disappointing. But that brings us to the end of this video, and we successfully read 3 books with 1 DNF, and they were all horror books, which was really cool. I was definitely in a horror mood, but now that I've read 4 horror books, I'm kind of like, maybe let's move on to something else. Anyway, so the books are What Feasts at Night, which we gave a 3-star, which I'm bumping it up to 3.25. I'm gonna bump it to 3.25. The Invocations, 4.25. I'm giving a lot of 0.25s in this. Horror Story, DNF, or Horror Movie. I keep calling it Horror Story. Horror Movie, DNF. And then Bless Your Heart, 1 star. So my ranking is as such. It was, there's a butterfly flying around. It was a fun time. I do wish, obviously, 2 of them went better than they did, but I also still had a really good time reading it, so I'm glad I did this. I plan to obviously do more, probably not horror, for a little while. Need a little break from that. Yeah, I had a good time, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, as usual. And definitely leave a comment down below if you've read any of these, if you have any horror suggestions, or like I said, I kind of want to read something young adult contemporary, so if you have any suggestions for that. And yeah, that's all I have to say, so I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the next one.